Hello everyone, and welcome back to our channel. Today, we are diving deep into a political story that's starting to shake the foundations of South Africa's ruling party. The African National Congress, the ANC, is facing what may be one of its most serious internal challenges yet. Not from the opposition. Not from civil society. But from within its own support base. Recent data has revealed a growing and undeniable disconnect between ANC leadership and the very people who have voted them into power for the past 3 decades. More than 2/3 of ANC supporters now say they don't back some of the party's most high-profile and long-standing policies, including the Expropriation Act, race-based appointments in government, and the long-cherished income grant system. And if that sounds shocking, it's because it is. For decades, the ANC has positioned itself as the defender of economic redress, transformation, and equity. But this data tells a different story, a story of a party increasingly out of step with the real, lived concerns of its voters. Let's start with the Expropriation Act, one of the ANC's flagship pieces of legislation. The law allows for the expropriation of land without compensation, a measure that was sold to the public as a necessary step to correct historical injustices caused by colonialism and apartheid. But instead of rallying around it, many ANC supporters are voicing outright opposition. Why? It's not because they don't believe land reform is important. It's because they fear the economic consequences. There are growing concerns that land expropriation without compensation will deter both domestic and foreign investment. Some fear it could destabilize the agricultural sector, harm food production, and lead to the same kind of economic collapse seen in other countries that pursued similar policies, most notably Zimbabwe. For many voters, especially in townships and rural areas where unemployment and poverty are already high, such risks are simply unaffordable. They're not asking for radical transformation, they're asking for jobs, infrastructure, and reliable services. And that brings us to another key issue, race-based appointments in public service. These appointments, meant to reverse the structural exclusion of Black South Africans, are increasingly being viewed by even ANC voters as ineffective and counterproductive. Now let's be clear, no one's denying the damage caused by decades of racial exclusion under apartheid. But the current model, which often prioritizes demographic targets over competence and performance, is beginning to feel like a betrayal of the promises of democracy. Many ANC supporters, especially younger ones, are calling for a shift toward merit-based hiring. They want to see capable professionals running municipalities, hospitals, schools, and public entities. They're tired of political appointments, cadre deployment, and what they see as an entrenched culture of nepotism and patronage. This disillusionment has grown in response to repeated service delivery failures. From water shortages in Limpopo to power outages across Gauteng and housing backlogs in the Eastern Cape, communities are losing patience. When they see unqualified or politically connected individuals in positions of power while their basic needs go unmet, they no longer view race-based hiring as transformative. They see it as a barrier to progress. Now let's talk about welfare grants, once considered one of the ANC's most popular and successful policies. Social grants, including the Child Support Grant, the Old Age Pension, and the R350 COVID-19 Relief Grant, have helped millions of poor South Africans survive. But even here, support is weakening. Many people are now saying grants are not enough. They're a lifeline, yes, but they're not a future. Increasingly, voters, including long-time ANC loyalists, are arguing that handouts cannot replace job creation. They want meaningful, long-term economic opportunities, not just monthly stipends that barely cover groceries. The growing consensus among ANC voters seems to be that while social support is necessary, it must be accompanied by real economic growth. Otherwise, the entire social system becomes unsustainable, and ultimately, disempowering. So what does this mean for the ANC going forward? Well, it means the party is facing a serious ideological crisis. On one hand, the leadership continues to cling to its traditional platform, focused on transformation, redistribution, and state-led economic control. On the other, the base is shifting. Voters are becoming more pragmatic. They care less about ideology and more about results. They want jobs, roads, electricity, functioning clinics, and safe communities. They want clean water and clean governance. And if the ANC leadership doesn't start listening, really listening, to these concerns, they risk losing their grip on power. Some analysts are already warning that if this disconnect isn't addressed, the ANC could suffer serious losses in upcoming elections. Voter apathy could rise. Turnout could fall. And perhaps most significantly, supporters may begin defecting to other parties that appear more in touch with the ground, like Action SA, the DA, or even populist movements like the EFF and the MK Party. We've already seen signs of this in places like KwaZulu-Natal and Gauteng, where the ANC has lost control of key metros and municipalities. In many of these areas, poor service delivery and corruption scandals have driven voters away in droves. What's also worth noting is that the ANC is no longer protected by nostalgia alone. For years, the party relied on its liberation legacy to secure votes. But today's younger generation, those born after 1994, are more concerned about their future than the ANC's past. They judge the party not by its role in history, but by its performance in the present. And right now, that performance is under intense scrutiny. The ANC's challenge now is to decide which direction to take. Will it double down on its ideological roots, risking further alienation of its base? Or will it pivot, embracing a more centrist, service-oriented model that prioritizes delivery over dogma? This won't be an easy transition. The party is deeply factionalized, with powerful interests vested in the status quo. But without reform, the ANC may find itself in political freefall. South Africa is changing. Its electorate is changing. And if the ANC wants to stay relevant in this new landscape, it must do more than campaign. It must reconnect with the real, pressing concerns of its people. The writing is on the wall, and it's written not in opposition manifestos, but in the hearts and minds of ANC voters themselves. That's all for today's video. If you found this analysis helpful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. And we'd love to hear from you in the comments. Do you think the ANC can close this gap with its base? Or is it too late for course correction? Let us know what you think. Thanks for watching, and as always, see you next time.